All right, so section R.1 is all about fractions, decimals, and percents. And we're also going to go over how these are related and how to convert between all three. So friendly reminder that a fraction comes from division. Fractions are ways to represent parts of a whole, like 2/3 of a pizza or half a cookie, right? They have their denominator. That's the bottom number. That's what we're dividing by. We also have our numerator. That's the number on the top, right? Here's our top number. And represents how many parts are included. Here's a formal definition of a fraction. Friendly reminder that our denominator cannot be 0 because we cannot divide by 0, right? That's undefined. If you divide by 0, you break all mathematics. I lose my job. It's not a happy moment. One thing I want to talk about real quickly is that fractions are sometimes called quotients because there's not enough Q words in the world. Okay, so fractions are sometimes called quotients. That can also be referring to the product of division, all the fun math terminology. So when we have a fraction, we want to make sure that fraction is in lowest terms. That's also called simplified, okay? What that means is that there are no common factors in the numerator and the denominator. Now when I ask you to factor a number, let's say, me trying to make an example on the spot. Let's say I give you the number 30, and I want you to break this number down. I ask you to factor this number, and you're like, okay, 30 is 5 times 6. Are you done? Is this number fully factored? No, it's not. Why? Well, 5 is prime. I can't break it down any further. But 6 can be broken down into 2 and 3. Remember that prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, those are the first few. Those are what I like to consider the atoms of mathematics, right? Every number is built out of primes. So when we simplify a number, we want to make sure there are no common primes that the two numbers have in common. So let's take a look at 2/3. 2/3 is simplified fully because there's no common factors of 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are both prime. If I look at 10 and 15, 10 fifteenths, right, it's not simplified because they both have a factor of 5, right? 10 is 2 times 5 and 15 is 3 times 5. So I can go ahead and simplify this because 5 divided by 5 is 1, right? And 1 times any number is just itself. So here are the steps to breaking down a fraction into its lowest terms. So why don't we go ahead and do a few examples. So what I want to do is I want to break the numerator and the denominator, you have to do this for both of them, into their factors, and then I'm going to simplify by eliminating the factors that they have in common. So if I have 9/12, 9 can be written as 3 times 3. 12 can be written as 3 times 4, but 4 isn't a prime number. 4 is 2 times 2. So I can see here that this 3 is going to cancel out, right? 3 divided by 3 is 1. It's like multiplying by 1. So I'm left with 3 over 2 times 2, which is 4. Next, I have -8/10. So we're going to have to keep that negative in the front, but I want us to go ahead and factor 8 and 10. Well, 8 is 2 cubed, so 2 times 2 times 2. We'll talk about exponents later. And 10 is 2 times 5. I can see that one of these 2's is going to cancel, and I'm left with 4/5. Make sure we don't forget our negative. That's -4/5. Then I have 7/14. Well, 7 is fully factored, right? 7's a prime number. But 14 is 2 times 7. Those 7's cancel out. Now what happens here? Well, remember, it leaves me with a 1. So I've got 1/2. There are two types of fractions. There are proper and improper fractions. So a proper fraction has a numerator less than the denominator, and an improper fraction has a numerator greater than the denominator. So an example of proper fractions, that's my cat. If you hear that crying in the background, she's very, very needy and will be appearing in a lot of these videos. Her name's Bobby. So some proper fractions would be 1/2, 7/8, 5/10. An improper fraction would be something like 7/4, 3/2, right? My numerator is greater than my denominator. So that means I have this poor cat. It's like nobody ever plays with her, but I do. So for improper fractions, we have a whole represented by this fraction, right? Fractions are meant to represent pieces. So we call this an improper fraction. You can kind of see that in the two images above, okay? So I've got a whole here. This is 1, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/8, right? Those are equivalent. Or I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 8. I have 5/8. So 8/8 and 5/8 gives me, I have 13/8. Here in green, change colors to coordinate, I've got 3/3, so 1, and then I also have 1/3. So together, all together, I have 4/3. So those are two improper fractions represented by an image.